Greetings, this is Alex McLean, wanting to welcome you to the first of a new series of mini documentaries I'm making with the help of Jurassic World Evolution. The topic of today, as you can see, is Appalachiosaurus. Now, this enclosure, I've attempted to replicate what the region of Appalachia looked like about 83 to 73 million years ago. Right? And for the star of our show, the fill-in is I think this is a jungle skin Albertosaurus. So Appalachiosaurus montgomeryensis. History and material discovered. It was discovered in 1982 by Dr. David King of Auburn University, one of my former professors, with a group of Auburn students in the Turnip Seed Dinosaur Site, part of the Dinopolis Chalk of Montgomery, Alabama. It finally was given a genus and species name in 2005 by paleontologist Thomas Carr, who was formerly of Toronto, currently member of the Carthage College in Wisconsin's biology department, as well as Thomas Williamson and David Schwimmer, when I couldn't find much information about them. Appalachiosaurus, though, is the most complete theropod found within the prehistoric continent of Appalachia, with 45% of the skeleton intact. Covered material includes both hind limbs, the mandible series, being the dentary and the angular, which is the lower jaw, part of the upper skull, including the maxilla, frontal, and rostral bones, part of the pelvis, metatarsal, and tail vertebrae. Additional material was later discovered, including the humerus, which led to the theory that the Appalachiosaurus had the more primitive, large, three-fingered condition for theropods, rather than the traditional smaller forelimbs with two fingers like other tyrannosaurs. And while the McWane Center in Birmingham continues to have their mountainous configuration, further analysis has revealed that configuration with the large forelimbs is probably not right. The specimen, though, the type specimen, was believed to be a juvenile, comparable size of a juvenile Albertosaurus, hence why I'm using this guy as a fill-in, and thus likely grew to a similar size as the Albertosaurus as an adult. Damage to the tail vertebrae seems to indicate that some sort of large crocodilian, such as a Deinosuchus, had attacked the Appalachiosaurus, but the bone had been healed, indicating that the injuries had been survived. Thus, it's not part of the taphonomonic issues of the specimen. Additional material had been assigned to Appalachiosaurus, has been found in other states, but it's mostly teeth material from South Carolina. Now, the environment and preservation, though. Due to differences in sea level during the late Cretaceous, far more of the planet was covered by water. With ice caps gone at the poles, states such as Alabama and Georgia were had far longer coastlines. The whole of Florida and Mississippi were underwater, but other states such as the Carolinas, Virginia, and New Jersey, which all were also part of Appalachia, had longer coastlines because the continent itself seemed to have drifted up during that time. Also, the reason I said Appalachia rather than North America is the fact that during this period of time, North America was split in two by what's called the Western Interior Seaway that separated Laramidia, which is the western side of the current North American continent, from Appalachia, which is the current eastern half of North America. Now, this means that they're in complete isolation, and while Laramidia has more articulated fossil materials, such as Tyrannosaurus rex, Triceratops, Edmontosaurus, Parasaurolophus, Grethosaurus, Ankylosaurus, Nodosaurus, and all the other really famous dinos, unfortunately, Appalachia does not have nearly as many articulated specimens and not nearly as many specimens overall. In fact, in Appalachia, New Jersey has the most fossils found of dinosaurs, but the most complete specimens come from Alabama. And there's also a lack of trackways preserved in Appalachia. that you don't have like the Paluxy River Preservation or other dinosaur trackways or even dinosaur footprints through most of it. We have found isolated individual footprints of small theropods about the size of a Deinonychus, the famous terrible claw, but we have not found any sort of large trackways for dinos. We found it for pterosaurs, though, which is kind of cool, in Washington, D.C., but not for dinos. This becomes important later when trying to interpret anything about this guy. So, Appalachia's few fossil beds are confined to 7 states. As said, Georgia is also on the list, adding, let's see, New Jersey, Alabama, Georgia. I think Arkansas has some dinosaur material. I think I found a nodosaur there. And while the rest of the Mesozoic is preserved, say Alabama, you won't find surface exposures, much less dinosaur bones. So it's not economically viable to just go around and look for it. Let's see. There's also a bit of a problem in the difference of the sediment of Laramidia and Appalachia. Appalachia situation is exacerbated by the fact that terrestrial sediments have a lower pH than Laramidia. That not only means that the soil is more acidic and thus more likely the bones to be damaged, but also the bacteria are different in the soil and sediment. That, so you have the body falls into land, even if it gets buried, what's in the soil and other sediments is probably going to start attacking the bone, making it unable to be fossilized. So, yeah, it's be unstable for the fossilization process, because fossilization of body material can only happen if the animal in question has enough body left when buried for sediment to seep in and replace the calcium in bones with silica. Now, since bone is very porous material, water gets in, and since the cells aren't keeping the calcite in place, it chemically breaks away, letting silica fill in, thus creating the fossil mold of dinosaur bones. We also, most skin impressions, by the way, are just impressions of casts. There's no dinosaur actual skin left. It's all rotted away, which is another thing we don't have in Appalachia. So, if the sediments on land don't really fossilize that well, while there was, get out of the wall, some fossilization for hadrosaurs in New Jersey, that was found in a marl, which is a highly calcareous water deposit. Probably had abundance of limestone-rich diatoms that help preserve the specimen and alter the pH of the depositional environment. So, but in regards of Appalachiosaurus, how was it preserved? Well, the region of Appalachia was a rainforest. It was an island continent surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean on one side, the Western Interior Seaway on the other, and based on the sheer volume of plant fossils, leaves and such, as well as petrified trees, it was a huge rainforest environment, which probably had seasonal or occasional flooding. And as most people might know, the Appalachian Mountains are older than the Rockies. The Rockies are really young, but Appalachia, the mountain range is smaller because it's older. It's been eroding. So run the clock back about 80 million years, and those mountains are going to be higher. They're going to be less eroded. They're going to be younger. So you're going to have rain shadow effect coming and going. And so you might probably have like seasonal floods or often floods. And this guy here, bodies would get caught in, like streams or rivers and get flushed out to sea. In Alabama, thankfully back then had a series of barrier islands similar to, say, the Dolphin Islands of today. And when the bodies of dinosaurs would get washed out to sea, yeah, they'd be broken apart, there'd be bits and pieces, probably scavenged already, but the waters that flush it out to sea, as much as it might break apart some of the body, it also would quickly deposit the body under, sediment and sand, and as the waves got caught between the, the offshore islands, they hit a break, the body would get deposited, and all the sediment that was moving with the body would layer on top of it, preserving it. So that's why we have bits and pieces rather than full skeletons. And as said, it was probably a very rich rainforest environment, and offshore the ocean teemed with fish, turtles, sea turtles, pterosaurs filled the sky, and giant mosasaurs swam. And while we do have some other fossil material from the time that we do have some feathers from Mesozoic birds, those are preserved in amber from nesting sites. That you have like a mangrove forest chocked full of bird nests and an anoxic zone that the amber would fall into, preserving the feathers. But also, while it's said that Appalachiosaurus is the Alabama T-Rex, they're probably not directly related. And nobody can agree on the cladistical analysis. That cladistics, by the way, is how we organize animals based on what are called derived features. That once an animal develops a unique evolutionary change, that it's a feature that it no longer shares with its ancestor and leads to a unique line for its descendants, it's called a node. And by studying these features, we can chart out the evolution and evolution rate of anything, including dinosaurs, if there's enough material. Which, unfortunately, with Appalachiosaurus, there's not a whole lot to go on. Now, it's been classified as a couple of things that nobody can agree on, such as one moment. Gotta take care of this.
No problem.
Diseased dinos are not happy dinos. Let me take care of this. So, Appalachiosaurus has been put in a couple of groups, such as the Albertosaurids, the Tyrannosaurids, and it's believed at one point that it's more closely related to the Asian small Tyrannosaur Alloramus. However, it also is possible that it's just a variation of Albertosaurus. So, anyway, let's let that guy take care of medicating. Let's see if I can see this. Yep, here we go again. So, yeah, since nobody can truly agree on it based on specimen, but we do know the juvenile in question was about 2/3 its maximum length, and was about the size of an Albertosaurus of the similar age. They figure this age out based on the sutures of the bone and how the bone itself looks. The bone, it changes as you reach, sexual maturity and get older, because it has to give room to grow. So, since it was about 2/3 its full size, the adult would probably be about 30 feet in length and about 10 feet tall, at that massive bump on the head of the Albertosaurus here. So the average man would probably come up to the shoulder blade of a full-grown Appalachiosaurus. Now, as far as differences between the Albertosaurus and Appalachiosaurus, since they are used as comparisons, the Appalachiosaurus had a weaker bite force. Estimates are for 32,000 newtons, approximately. whereas Albertosaurus had a 42,000 Newton bite, but Appalachiosaurus also had a longer jaw. So stress forces are a little different. Now, also, as I said, the teeth have been found even without the body. You know, dinosaurs would shed off teeth regularly throughout their lives, like the crocodilians do. And the difference in teeth is that Appalachiosaurus' teeth were narrow, and they had very excellent serrations on the posterior and anterior part of the teeth. Try to get a close-up of these guys. So these things were serrated front and back. And while they are more narrow than the famous T-Rex teeth, combined with its bite force, they were excellent for shredding meat, tearing apart flesh. No idea how robust they were compared to Tyrannosaur teeth. Because Tyrannosaur teeth are those big banana rail spike things that can just punch right through bone when they're adults. Whereas these guys might have had bone as part of their diet. It probably wasn't as much of a part of their diet as Tyrannosaurs, because you're not likely to bite through a Hadrosaur's femur with teeth like that. You'll dig into it, but you might be breaking apart ribs and such. Still, though, very powerful bite, animal its size. And when comparing speed, because everyone wants to know how fast dinosaurs really were. Well, the estimates for a walking speed for Appalachiosaurus were about 8 miles an hour. It could trot at about 13. And if it was going in a flat-out sprint, it could possibly reach 60 miles an hour based on some calculations. Now, how reliable those calculations are depends on our understanding of dinosaur anatomy. And the problem is, until recently, we thought that the leg muscles weren't attached to the tail as much. But see how it's running now? But the famous dinosaur mummy, in quotation marks, Dakota, indicated that a lot more muscle was attached from the femur to the tail than previously thought in hadrosaurs. So all estimates on speed and calculations are based on an incomplete understanding of dinosaur anatomy, and any computer models are going to have the same problem. They're going to have the same incomplete understanding, and as said, we don't have trackways for this guy. We can't measure the length of its stride, the position of its hip to do a calculation on how fast this guy could run. It's a preservational bias. We don't know why we don't have it. We don't know why we don't have a lot of things in Appalachia. But, it's... So, any sort of estimates for dinosaur speed and such, take with a grain of salt. Because, again, we don't know all the physics of their locomotion. And let's see, so... The diet and role in the ecology for Appalachiosaurus was apex predator. It was the largest carnivore in Appalachia that we know of, and during the Campanian. And it probably fed on hadrosaurs such as the Lophorothon, kind of a mouthful, hadrosaur, ornithomimids such as relatives of Struthiomimus and Gallimimus, and as well as potentially nodosaurs, which are the armored tank dinosaurs without tail clubs. But as far as eating from those, it probably scavenged ones that that died and their flesh was easy pickings, or if one fell over and the exposed underbelly was there for the taking for this guy. That easy for it to eat that. And there was also a ceratopsian that was recently discovered based on teeth, but the problem is we have no idea what it looked like. It doesn't have a species name. I think its teeth were found in Tennessee. So there was some dinosaur material in Tennessee, but again, much like most of Appalachia, it's bits and pieces. So as far as any sort of social understanding, We don't have an absolute understanding of the social life of this guy because you only got one specimen. But if it's anything like Albertosaurus or Tarbosaurus or how they think Tyrannosaurus rex was now, it's possible it was a social hunter based on the work of Dr. Philip Curry from the Royal Tyrrell Museum with studying Albertosaurs and the Asian Tarbosaurus, where it's got pretty good evidence for families of dinosaurs. They got caught in a natural disaster like a flood, and all died simultaneously. Unlike the predator traps of Dinosaur National Monument with Allosaurus, that it's likely they just tolerate each other like crocodiles did, or crocodiles do, I should say, when there's a feeding session going on. There was no prey species around these tyrannosaurs. And they all died in the same location at about the same time. So it's more than likely they were social of some sort, but how exactly that would work for an animal that big is unknown. We also don't have a good understanding of what our Appalachiosaurus skin looked like. We don't have any feathers like, the Eutyrannus from China, 30-foot tyrannosaur that was covered in feathers. We don't have that. We have no skin impressions. We have nothing to go on. So if there's going to be like a Microraptor discovery for pigmentation, it's not going to exist with Appalachiosaurus. And it's also underrepresented as far as media goes, because the only media that's really been published on this guy has been YouTube videos and podcasts. It's got some dinosaur specimens, such as the McWane Center in Birmingham, as well as the Tilla Science Museum in Cartersville, Georgia, has a mount that is got the more traditional Tyrannosaur appearance to it. But it's not been any movie or video game, and most of the material you'll find online is fan art from paleo artists. But so that's why I figured I'd start this series with a little-known Tyrannosaur that's, needs a little more attention, and I thought all my friends from down south would appreciate a Southern-style dino as the first from this series. So, thank you all very much for your time. Hope you all had a great day, and catch you next time.